Hi everybody, and welcome back to another custom Thomas Wooden Railway model spotlight or showcase. Today's video is going to focus on this excellent custom model you see in front here. It is Streamline Gordon or Shooting Star Gordon, whichever you prefer. This awesome custom was made by the YouTube user HiroTheJapaneseTrain, so please visit his channel in the description and in the comments below. I'd really appreciate it, and I'm sure he would appreciate it as well. So, this version of Gordon was seen in a few scenes from the 2016 Thomas and Friends movie, The Great Race. Basically what happens is that Gordon gets transformed into this streamlined form for the purpose of competing in the fastest engine record, or basically, you know, it's the fastest engines in the world, compete against each other, and you get to see who's actually the quickest. A small problem arises, however, when the people and engines at the steamworks forget to put Gordon's safety valve back on. Thomas ends up returning it to Gordon, but just as the race is starting, so Gordon really doesn't want it back. He sings for a few minutes in his special song called Streamlining, and then gradually Gordon's boiler begins to explode in a fairly comical fashion, and he's forced to drop out of the race. So this is a very strange model of Gordon, considering, you know, Gordon has never gone through a transformation like this in both the Railway series and the television series before. So I remember the first time I saw this version of Gordon, I was fairly confused. But it makes sense because he's competing in, you know, the fastest engine in the world race. So if he's in streamlined form like this here, you know, it'll give him a slight advantage. But I remember the first time I saw it, I was a bit shocked at how Gordon looked. I never thought he would look like he does in those few scenes from the movie. So like I mentioned earlier, this was not made by me. It was made by an excellent Thomas YouTuber named HiroTheJapaneseTrain. And if you're a Thomas Wooden Railway fan, you may have already guessed what this model is primarily composed of. It's made of a few different elements, so I'm going to bring aboard a wooden railway conner here, and hopefully you can start to see some similarities between the two. Streamline Gordon's main body here was made out of a conner model that looked just like this. It was later repainted. Obviously the face was taken off of it and a few other things were done, but pretty much what you're looking at right there is basically a modified conner with Caitlin's tender. And Caitlin's tender I'll show in just a little bit. I'll just put it to the back of Connor there. But the reason we couldn't use Connor's tender is because Connor's tender looks something like that. His tender is covered, and in the movie you can clearly see that Gordon still has his relatively old style tender with the visible coal. So we couldn't use Connor's tender, we actually had to use Caitlin's. That allowed us to be able to see Gordon's coal but also still give it that streamlined effect that you see in the movie. So obviously I wasn't the one who did this custom. I'm sure if HiroTheJapaneseTrain watches this video, he'd be happy to give us some insight on what exactly had to be done. But I'm just going to take a few guesses here. First off, the face had to be cut off a conner there. The whole thing was repainted. There's this very special streamlined area that was added, and I'm not 100% sure what HiroTheJapaneseTrain used for that modification. My original guess, it kind of looks like bendable, very thin popsicle sticks that he just kind of molded to the body here. That could be completely wrong. But then a very smart thing he did, you can kind of see back here, I'm guessing he used some sort of putty or glue to basically attach this addition to the main body, and then he ended up painting the whole thing so you can't even tell that it's really, you know, it's a separate piece. It looks as though it's connected to the original body there. There's also some additions, some lines right there at the bottom, and then all of the painting that was done was completely hand painted. There's an excellent representation of the shooting star itself right there, and I'll spin Gordon around in just a moment. So there were a couple of modifications that had to be done for this conner. It wasn't just a simple repaint and stick a new face on it and you're done. There was actually a lot more that had to be done when it came to creating this custom. So I'm going to remove Connor here. I'll move Shooting Star Gordon back for just a moment. And here is Caitlin's tender. Hopefully you can see it still has that streamlined effect because, you know, Caitlin is, after all, still a streamlined engine. But we needed to be able to see the visible coal. So that's why that was done. And then hopefully you can see here at the back, there is that visible coal. So what you're basically looking at, among many other different modifications, you're looking at a Connor model, heavily modified, and then Caitlin's tender, which was basically repainted. So let me just spin Shooting Star Gordon around here. There's just some excellent detailing and painting that's gone on by HiroTheJapaneseTrain. I knew he was going to do an excellent job, but even I was just a little bit surprised how well this turned out here. And of course, the face is sort of a different story, but I'll get to that near the end of the video. So on the bottom here, you can say it says Shooting Star. I bet he ran out of room to say Gordon. And then HiroTheJapaneseTrain kind of signed his name there. If you look very closely in the light, you can kind of see where it says Connor right underneath the shooting star there. Hopefully you guys can see that, because that's really what this model was modified from. And then let me very quickly show off the tender here. Tender turned out super nice. I don't know why, I mean, there was multiple levels of paint that had to go on there and just a lot of very detailed hard work. And then hopefully you guys can see there it says Caitlin's tender, so that's where that came from. Just a very nice custom overall. I couldn't be happier. It just looks really, really nice. And then the final part of this custom, that if I can take any credit for this, it would be this final part. Obviously, I got HiroTheJapaneseTrain all of the parts and pieces he needed, but the face is a very important part to this custom, because I believe I talked about this in the Rex review. You know, you can create something as magnificent and as awesome as a custom like this, but if it doesn't have the right face, then it really doesn't sell the idea that this could potentially be, you know, an official licensed Thomas product. So the face actually came from the Take and Play Shooting Star Gordon, and the only major range of merchandise that didn't get a Shooting Star Gordon was the Wooden Railway range. There is a Trackmaster version, but that face is way too big. There'd be no way to, you know, possibly shrink that down in size to try and fit on a Wooden Railway model like this. So when this model was originally sent to me after it was completed by HiroTheJapaneseTrain, he originally included an old style Gordon face, because I had to buy him a Gordon model for another custom he was doing. So he just stuck that on there, and that was fine. But then I got to thinking, I was like, you know what? That Take and Play face, that determined look where he's, you know, running down the track, that would just look so good on a model like this. And the only bad part about it was that it just might end up being a little bit small. If you watch The Great Race and the scenes where Streamline Gordon appears, you'll notice that Gordon's face is really large. In fact, in my opinion, it kind of looks a little bit awkward, but Gordon's face is just really huge, and it's kind of magnified by all of the modifications he's had done to achieve that streamlined form. So the exact opposite is true on this model. Gordon's face is actually just a tiny bit small. But it's just I mean, it's not even a detriment. It's just part of the deal, I guess. So I ended up, the first time I did this around, I ended up using a knife to pry off the face. I damaged the face a little bit, so that really wasn't the smartest idea. But if you're going to do this modification, take the time and drill out these rivets here in the bottom. And if you drill far enough, basically this whole model will fall apart. In fact, let me remove this one. This was the first one I did. You can see how marked up it got, and you can see where I basically had to chew through that raw plastic there. And then this is the second time I did it. I drilled through the bottom there, and it came out very nicely. So hopefully you can see where the face comes, but then you can start to see the similarities between these two models. Remember, this is an official licensed toy, and then this is a custom one. So that's where the face came from. Originally, I was just going to settle for like a normal CGI Gordon face. But that scene where Gordon sings the song, you know, that is really his true defining moment of streamlining. And I thought, you know what, it'd be kind of foolish of me not to at least try and put that streamlined, determined looking Gordon face on this model. So if you end up doing this modification and you end up using this face, just be very careful. The face is just barely big enough to fit over kind of the holes and marks left from where Connor's face came from. It's a very close fit. So you just honestly have to position it just rightly. So hopefully, I mean, you know, there's a spot there at the bottom, but I can't really do anything about that. But I think, you know, those very small minor things that are part of this model, it's totally worth it to get that determined face that you see there. So overall, I mean, this is definitely one of my favorite custom models. I can't thank HiroTheJapaneseTrain enough for doing this modification for me. I'll just briefly mention, you can see shiny wheels here. I'm guessing that is clear nail polish. And really, I mean, I can't really think of anything else to talk about, but hopefully I've showed this model over in great detail. Hopefully you've been able to see just how cool it is. And that is Shooting Star Gordon. So I want to thank you all so much for watching this video. It's been a lot of fun showing off these different customs, and as always, I want to give a special thank you to HiroTheJapaneseTrain for all of his hard work. I know this was not an easy custom by any means. There was a lot of extra modifications that he had to put into this custom here, so I want to thank him for that, and I also want to thank you guys for watching. I hope you're enjoying the new series. I certainly am having a lot of fun showing off all of these awesome customs made by other YouTubers. So anyway, thanks everybody for watching, and I hope you have a great day.